Sometimes I guess there just aren't enough rocks.
Hello there and welcome back to Strength for Tomorrow Radio with me, Stuart Thompson. Glad you could join me. Last week we didn't have a show. It was just super busy in the gym. It's that time of year. Lots of new people starting, lots of work to be done, and I just didn't get time to put a show together. Apologies for that to all 10 of you that listen. This week it's episode 39 and we are going to talk about 13 reasons that you aren't getting stronger. 2 weeks ago, we discussed training gear and what you need, what you don't need. This week, we're talking about all of the reasons of why you are not getting stronger. We also have news of the week and best bit, joke of the week, so do stick around. So the first and probably the biggest reason that you're not getting stronger is you're not eating enough. You're not taking in enough calories. Now, this can be a confusing one for you if you're someone who is trying to either maintain a six-pack, get a six-pack, get abs, get lean, lose weight, and you're doing strength training. You can't do both, basically. Well, it's not that you can't do both, it's just that it's very, very, very difficult to, unless you're an absolute beginner. So unless you've never trained before, you're not doing, you're literally getting off the couch and going into the gym to do some weight training. You need to be eating enough. A lot of people just don't eat enough calories. They don't eat enough food during the day. So they maybe skip breakfast and then, they'll skip their lunch. They're not getting enough protein, they're not getting enough carbs, they're not getting enough fat, they're not getting enough anything. Or if they are, it's generally junk food. It's high sugar, it's snack food. And it's just not enough good nutrients going into your body. The saying is you are what you eat, right? So whenever you're training, you are trying to create new tissue. You're trying to make your muscles stronger. And if you don't have enough, a surplus of energy, guess what? It's very difficult to get stronger. Now you might improve a little bit for a while, but it will catch up with you. And that's kind of what this whole program is about today. This is not for the advanced lifter. If you're not getting stronger and you're like, I know, elite powerlifter, this probably is not the podcast for you. It's probably not the episode for you. But if you are a mere mortal like me, like most people out there, just make sure you're eating plenty. Get a good breakfast. Don't tell me you're eating one egg and one slice of toast. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. That's not enough. You're getting like 200 calories, maybe 250 at the very, very most there. Tell me you're eating 4, 5, 6 eggs. Tell me you're eating, like, if you're a big dude, if you're like 6 foot, 2,000 calories is not enough if you're trying to get stronger. If you're a lady, 2,000 calories is probably barely enough. Again, depending on your height. But your height and your weight, your age and your activity level are all really important factors into deciding how many calories, how much food you need every day. So do try and make sure you're getting enough food in the tank. Otherwise, you're not going to get stronger. Reason number 2 that you're not getting stronger, you are not giving yourself enough time to recover. And I'm not talking about time in between your sets. We'll get to that. That's another reason, but kind of previewing that one. But yes, you're not getting enough time to recover. So if you're training on Monday, say you're doing full body, you're doing some heavy lifting on Monday, and then you think, oh, I can't train on Wednesday. I'll squeeze one in tomorrow. I'll go on Tuesday. Or you're just training Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then take the rest of the week off. Or maybe you're going to try and do 4, 5, 6 days a week, but you haven't really thought too much about how you're going to program it, how you're going to schedule it. The problem with that is you're not giving your muscles enough time to recover. They need about 48 hours. Okay, sometimes even 72 hours. You need a few days in between, but you need enough recovery time to let your muscles get over that adaptation process. So you're trying to apply stress, then let them recover and let them adapt. So the next time you're setting yourself up in the previous session for the next session. So you need to make sure you're giving yourself at least 48 hours, 2 days. So if you're training Monday evening, don't train again till Wednesday evening. If you're training Wednesday evening, don't train again till Friday evening at the earliest. Maybe Saturday morning, Saturday evening. And then rinse and repeat for the next week. So make sure you're recovering enough. I've had clients sometimes and they'll say, oh, I can't get into you on Saturday morning, so is it okay if I come on Friday? And this will be on the Thursday, they'll be telling me this. The problem with that is they're gonna be at a massive disadvantage. Now they might get through the session okay, they might, get a little bit of progress. It's gonna feel really tough for them, and it's just gonna feel a lot harder than it should do. And if they're doing that all the time, it's just gonna beat the crap out of their body. So it's not a good idea. So make sure you're giving yourself enough recovery time. This is all about box ticking, okay? So go through all these 13 reasons today and tick the boxes. Make sure you're ticking all these boxes and you are not falling into any of these traps. Reason number 3 that you aren't getting stronger is overtraining. Now, lots of people have theories on overtraining. Does it exist? Is it an excuse? Is it a lazy person's way out? Overtraining is a thing, and for all you people who maybe do CrossFit, or someone who is just constantly has to be moving, has to be doing something, this is a big reason that you're not getting stronger. How do I know that? Because I fell for this one. I used to overtrain a lot. I used to do 6 days a week, sometimes twice a day. Now I would try and schedule it pretty cleverly. I would try and make sure I'm not doing the same thing too often. I was giving myself enough recovery time, like number 2, trying to avoid that trap, but still overtraining. So I just wasn't recovering. So I was just again beating the crap out of my body over and over and over again. I'd be trying to do high intensity training plus strength training, and you can do that for a while. You will get by for a while, and you will get stronger up to a point. But whenever you start getting serious and you start lifting more serious kind of weights, the ones that kind of scare you a little bit, that's when you need to really pay attention to the details and make sure you're not overtraining. So you're not going out doing running in the morning and then trying to lift weights in the evening or afternoon, or vice versa. Doing it the day before even, that might be okay. You might adapt to that. It's all about adaptation, guys. It really is all about adaptation. But make sure you're not overtraining. If you feel like this is something that you're falling for, just lay back, okay? Give yourself a bit of a day's rest. There's nothing wrong with a lower intensity. Maybe go for a long walk. Maybe do something a bit more relaxing in between. Not as high intensity. Lower intensity is a pretty good way to go. So yeah, it's a really simple one, but make sure you're not overtraining. Make sure you're not doing Metcon, so you're not just burning up energy for the sake of burning up energy because you can't sit still. I'm sure there's some washing you can do around the house, some ironing, change the bed sheets. Those are all the sort of things my wife gives to me to do. But yeah, I'll leave that up to your discretion. Number 4, not sleeping enough. Some of you will listen to this and be going, oh, brilliant, I can use this as an excuse to get more sleep. Yes, you can. You really can. But, a lot of people think that when you go to the gym, the best thing, everybody should get up early and they should go to the gym at 6 a.m. And that's the best time of the day to work out. Now, first, there's some studies behind when's the best time of the day to work out, blah, blah, blah. But if you're a real person, we've got a Facebook group called Real Life Athletes. If you're a real life athlete, if you're a person who just tries to get some sort of training in amongst all the chaos and busyness of life, then just getting training in at any time is a result. It's a bit of progress. It's a goal that you should be really delighted whenever you meet it. So don't worry too much about if you don't like training in the morning. I personally don't like training in the morning. So if you are forfeiting your sleep just to get an extra session in, I'm not saying if that's the only time you can train, not to do it. If that's the only time you can train, but I'll absolutely do it. What I'm saying is, if you're forcing yourself to go to the gym after a terrible night's sleep, or you are thinking that you have to get up, like The Rock is up at 4 a.m. To me, that's just insanity. I know the different time zone there, so maybe that counts for something, but getting up at 4 a.m. to go to the gym is the least appealing thing I can think of. I love going to the gym. I love lifting weights, but making sure you're getting quality sleep, making sure you're getting enough sleep. If you're not, that is going to impact your training. There's just no way two ways about it. I don't care how many supplements you take. I don't care how many huge meals you eat. And I don't care how much recovery work or cryotherapy or any of those things that you do. If you're not getting enough sleep, you cannot substitute sleep for anything. Supplements, drugs, anything. You need to make sure you're sleeping, getting enough quantity and enough quality sleep when and where possible. If you've got kids, obviously that's a challenge, but that's something that's going to impact your training, and it's something that you're going to have to address if you're serious about getting stronger. One reason I know that sleeping has a massive impact on your progress and your strength is, well, a couple of reasons. One is I went on holidays years ago, as everybody probably did before the Divock came along. But yeah, I went on holidays away for a couple of weeks. Didn't really train at all. Just there wasn't a gym to train in, so I didn't train. Just give myself a break. And I came home. It was America. I came home. I was jet lagged, and I thought, what's going to help my jet lag? If I go and do a wee training session here, that'll help my jet lag. So I hadn't trained in a couple of weeks, and I was pretty sleepy. And I went to the gym. I was actually surprised at how well I did in the gym. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, and as I was expecting. But my numbers were down. My power was way down, and I wasn't trying to push it up too much because it just felt heavy. It just felt really heavy. Another reason I know is whenever I was at uni, I didn't sleep very much. I took lots of supplements. I took lots of protein powder. I took lots of food, but my sleeping was dreadful. Drank lots of water as well, actually, but my sleeping was awful. You're a student. You're not going to bed at like 3, 4, 5 in the morning. You're getting up and going to class and 3, 4, 5 hours sleep, 4 or 5 days a week, and it just is a bad combination. And then you try and like catch up with the weekend. Saturday morning you sleep in, Sunday morning you sleep in. It's just bad though. It catches up with you, and you really don't see that as much progress as you should for the amount of training hours you're putting in. If you're putting in 4, 5, or 6 days a week, 6 hours of training a week, you really should be getting a lot stronger a lot sooner. If all the metrics and all of the details are in place in your life. So if you're eating enough, sleeping enough, and recovering well, and you've scheduled a good program. But it didn't happen for me, so that's how I now learn from my mistakes. Number 5, doing too many reps. Now, to someone who's not really acquainted much with the gym, this might sound like a silly thing to say. Surely, if you're able to do more reps, it means you're getting stronger. Well, not really. And how do I mean by not really? Well, if you are lifting 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, up to kind of 20 reps, like how many reps do you get to before it turns into endurance or stamina? How many reps is too many reps? I would say for strength, any more than 5, maybe even 6. 5 is probably the most you want to do for strength, and 3s and 2s is probably the least you want to do. Now, I know people like have in their head all these things like hypertrophy. So 8 to 12 is hypertrophy, and above that is muscle endurance and stuff like that. But if you're trying to get stronger, just adding more reps using the same weight is not sufficient. If you're trying to get stronger, we need to go back to what the definition of strength is. And increasing in strength is defined as the ability to produce a force against an external resistance. Okay, so if you're able to produce more force against higher external resistance, i.e. the weight, the bar, whatever it is you're lifting, then that means your strength is going up. If you're just able to do more reps with the same weight, that's not strength. Now you can argue over whether stamina or endurance. I can kind of read both into it depending on how far you go with it, but it's certainly not strength. So you get that point where it's no longer strength you're training, it's something else. It's stamina or endurance essentially. So if you're doing too many reps, that's another reason you're not getting stronger. Keep the reps down, keep the weight up, and this is something again novices really do find it hard to get their head around. A lot of times people just think, I'll just do more reps. I can just do more reps and that's me getting stronger. It's not strength, guys. It is something else. It's stamina or muscle endurance. It's certainly not strength. So make sure that you are training for strength. You're doing the reps that are going to make you stronger. So a set of 5, a set of 3. Keep it under 5 though. The other problem is not doing enough reps, and that's the next thing we're going to deal with. So number 6, not doing enough reps. This again is another really common problem. Whenever you're in the gym and you're trying to get strong, maybe you've got your deadlift up, or you've got you're trying to get your squat up, and you just go into the gym and just go, I just grab the bar, just rip it off the ground, and just stack as much weight on as you can, and try and rip it off the ground every single week. Now you might get by for a while, but those are more like tests of strength rather than strength training. You're trying to, that's almost testing out to see where you're at, where your current strength level is at, rather than training your strength. So not doing enough reps is a problem. You're not providing enough of a stimulus, and you could also say you're not providing the right stimulus for your muscles to adapt to get stronger the next time. So every session you do, it's always setting you up for the next session. Always bear that in mind. It's not just about today, it's about applying a stress that is going to set you up. It's going to force you to adapt and your muscles to adapt so that you can provide more force the next time you go into the gym to try and lift. So bear that in mind. So not doing enough reps. So I mean, like if you're doing 1 rep maxes every week, forget about it. Forget about it. You're wasting your time. You're not providing the correct stress for your body to get stronger. So that's another reason you're maybe not getting strong enough. Number 7, not training regularly enough. So who's guilty of this one? I think we've all been at some stage. But so say you're meant to do 3 times a week. Let me paint a little picture for you. So Monday night, you go to the gym, feeling great, have a great session. You know, you made some gains from your previous time, and you go away patting yourself in the back, just feeling really accomplished. Then you rest up as Tuesday as planned. Comes to Wednesday, you're supposed to go and train again. What happens? There's a really good series on Netflix. The cat's not well. It's a really wet night. You have to leave the kids somewhere. I don't know. There's a million things come up, isn't there? And maybe you just sat down and you started scrolling on Facebook, or you started listening to a really great podcast called Strength for Tomorrow Radio. Either way, you can't get up, and before you know it, it's too late. Oh, the gym's closed, or I missed my session. You think, I know, I'll train on Thursday and Saturday, and that'll make up for it. I'll still get my 3 sessions in this week. Lo and behold, Thursday evening comes, something else comes up. You procrastinate, you put it off, and then before you know it, it's Friday. You think, oh, I'm really busy Friday evening, can't do anything now. Then Saturday, well, I'll leave it to Monday. Before you know it, a week's gone by. Then maybe you get a session in on Monday evening. So it's been a whole week since you trained. What's going to happen? I know what's going to happen. A couple of things. One, it's going to be really difficult to know how much weight to put on the bar next time. It becomes much less predictable. It's harder to interpret based on what you've previously done, what you should do next. The other thing that happens is your rate of progression will slow down dramatically if you're not getting enough sessions in. At the very best. At the very worst, you'll not progress at all, or maybe you can go backwards. 1 session, strength session a week is not enough. It really is not enough, unless you're an absolute novice, in which case doing anything is going to be better. But if you've trained at any length of time, if you're any sort of decent strength level, you need to be training more regularly than that. You need to make sure that you're doing something, getting good quality rest, recovery, eating, sleeping, all of the above but make sure you're training when you're supposed to be training, whenever your program tells you to train, not whenever you feel like it, not whenever you can find the strength and the fortitude to put the phone down and get in the car and go to the gym, or run to the gym, whatever you want to do. But not training regular enough is really going to hamper your progress. Number 8. So, like we already said, the workout that you did previously is going to determine what you do next. It's going to determine the weights. So if you're doing squats, if you did a 100 kilo back squat last time, you're probably going to be doing 102.5 or 103 or 102 kilos this time. The problem is that sometimes we go up in increments that are too big. So if you say, for example, your back squat was 100 kilos, instead of putting on 102.5, you maybe think, I got that all right last time, I'll stick on 110. So you're going up in 10 kilo increments instead of 2.5 kilo increments. That is fine for a while, but it will catch up with you, and it will catch up with your form. It will catch up with you just in how tough the exercise feels. You would be better sometimes just taking the progressions a little bit slower, getting your consistency for training sessions in, but going up a little bit slower. Another real problem, and this is especially true in a lot of commercial gyms, not cross-functional fitness, no. I'll have you know, if you come to cross-functional fitness, you will never have this problem. If you're doing overhead pressing, so you're doing pressing, or bench pressing or overhead pressing, and you won't be able to go up in 2.5 kilo increments. It's going to be too much, and this is something that really annoys me about powerlifting competitions. It actually takes away from the spectacle, I think. And if you're a powerlifter and listening to this and you disagree, I'd love to hear from you. But it especially doesn't make sense to me from a female perspective, because percentage wise, it doesn't make sense. If you are a female and you're bench pressing 50 kilos, to have to go up 50 to 52.5 as the next increment. That's a massive jump. That percentage wise, that's a huge jump. It's not the same as a guy going up from 100 to 102.5. It's just not. And it's a real dampener, and it's a real detraction from someone trying to get stronger. If you are in the gym and the smallest plates they have is 1.25 kilos, that is going to hamper your progress. And I hate to use that as an example because unfortunately it's pretty much almost every gym in the country. But if you're trying to do bench press and you're trying to take more than 1 kilo jumps at a time, you're eventually going to hit a point where you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to hit a point where you're going to think, it's too tough. And you will fail. You'll get to whatever it is your max is, you get to that. And instead of being able to go up 1 kilo, so from like 100 kilos to 101 kilos, or from 50 kilos to 51 kilos, you're going to have to go to 52.5 or 102.5. And that's a massive jump. It's a huge jump. Even if you're at that 100 kilo, up around that mark, it's a massive, massive jump. So that's going to stop you. What I suggest is either you get a set of little small incremental plates, they're almost like washers or coasters. Get some of those, stick them in your gym bag, take it to the gym with you if your gym doesn't have those, and that will keep you going for a long, long, long time before you need to change anything in your program. The obvious thing, and the thing that most people will do at that point, is program hop. They'll just, once it starts getting tough, they'll fail a few reps for a couple of weeks, if even that, they'll program hop. They'll go and try and find some really intricate, complicated program, whenever all you need to do is keep going up in smaller increments, keep eating well, keep sleeping well, and you will progress for a really long time without having to change anything in your program apart from a little bit of weight each time. So increments being too big, be patient with it, and it will reward you in the long run. Moving on then to number 9 for the 13 reasons that you're not getting stronger. Getting there, nearly there. A big one is inefficient technique. So you might find, again, if you're a novice, if you're just starting off, that your technique isn't perfect. So, surprise. If you don't know that, surprise. But that can take a while to get perfected and get ironed out. And as the weight increases, your technique should be challenged. You should always be having your technique questioned, so that you're having to work harder to make sure your posture is correct, make sure your mechanics are correct, make sure you're moving the weight in the correct way. But if you're not getting stronger, sometimes it's because your technique is just inefficient. A really good example is trying to press the bar overhead. So shoulder press, military press, whatever you want to call it, whatever variation you want to think of. If you are pushing the bar away from your body instead of straight up, so if you have the bar over your midfoot, okay, it's centered, and you try to press it up in the air, but instead it goes away from your face, it goes out. That is inefficient technique, and it's not going to be a surprise if you're not able to complete your set of the prescribed reps if that's happening. Because strength requires very few reps, 5 reps like we said earlier, you don't have much leeway for failure. Okay, you can't afford to muck up any reps. You can't afford to take the long way up, shall we put it, if you're trying to press the bar overhead. Same thing with squatting. If you're squatting and you're only trying to engage your quads and not your glutes and hamstrings, that's classed as inefficient technique as well. If you're trying to deadlift with your lower back muscles or your arms, like pull the weight up with your upper body instead of push the weight off the floor with your feet using your glutes, hamstrings, then that's inefficient technique as well. You're using smaller muscle groups to lift big weight. It doesn't make sense, right? So you might get to the point where you're going to have to assess your technique and make sure that you are doing things properly, that you're not trying to lift big weights with little muscles. You want to lift big weights with big muscles. Make sure you're doing it correctly. Number 10. This is where, if you're a normal person, that you end the list. You have 10 reasons, not 13. Who picks an uneven number? Me, I do. Anyway, number 10, not resting enough between sets. And I can't stress this one enough. This one I have to repeat on a weekly basis. Probably a daily basis, actually. But if you are trying to lift heavier weights, you're going to need a rest a lot. Now, I don't mean 30 minutes. Although, if you're really, again, elite powerlifter, you're not going to be listening to me for this long, but if you're a really strong lifter, 30 minutes is not unheard of between sets. But if you are resting 90 seconds, 1 minute is not long enough. You need to increase that time, and you need to take a note of the time. Don't just do it randomized. Don't just do it when you feel like it. Unless it is on the larger side, you're taking more rest. Don't just do it 1 minute, one set, and then next time you're doing 16 minutes. Make sure you're timing your rest. A lot of times people are fail to get stronger because they're not resting enough. So they're not taking 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes between sets. They're rushing into it. They think when you're at the gym, you always need to have your heart rate up the whole time. That's not the case. If you're trying to get stronger, if that's the purpose of your workout, if that's the purpose of your training program, you need to make sure you're resting plenty in between sets. You might get your heart rate down quicker, but especially if you're doing like upper body work and you're not using as many of the big muscles, if you're doing squats or deadlifts, your heart rate's going to take a little bit longer to settle, so you're going to feel like you're more fatigued for longer. If you're doing upper body, like you're doing pull-ups, you're doing bench press, or doing overhead press, things like that, you might be tempted to jump in a bit too early. So it is important to time your rest, make sure you're taking plenty of rest, and take a note of it. If you find set 2 out of 3 really difficult, and you only rested 2 minutes, don't be afraid to take an extra minute or an extra 30 seconds at least between set 2 and set 3, your last set. And again, this is for the purpose of strength. If you have a different purpose for your workout, if you're trying to achieve something else, if you're, I don't know, your goal is to try and just lift weights, heavy weights, and keep your heart rate up, then okay, I get it. Maybe you don't want to rest as long. You want to keep it to 90 seconds. You want to try and keep doing what you can, try and improve as much as you can while keeping the rest exactly a minute or exactly 90 seconds. It's probably going to work better for lighter weight and higher reps, in which case, again, you're not training for strength, you're training for muscle endurance. So in order to get stronger, if you're doing sets of 5, you're going heavy, make sure you're resting enough in between sets. If you feel like if you're able to execute the movement basically, right, and get a full set the next time and you've only taken a minute's rest, it's not heavy enough. Okay, it's not heavy enough to get stronger. You're clearly working at a sub-maximal rate, like way sub-maximal. So make sure you're lifting heavy enough, you're resting enough in between sets. Number 11, you have no way to measure if you're getting stronger. So this applies to people who don't have a training program primarily. If you're just going to the gym and just lifting randomly and hoping you remember from the previous session what you're doing, but if you don't have a measurement of how you're getting stronger, that is a big problem. And the last couple of points kind of tie in with this. So making sure you're doing exercises that are trainable. What I mean by that is that you are doing exercises that can be incrementally loaded each session. So in other words, if you're having to jump up 10 kilos or 5 kilos or big jumps, those are not trainable exercises in the respect that you'll get to the point where you'll not be able to lift anymore very, very soon. So dumbbells, that's often a reason that dumbbells fail people quite early on, because they are not as incremental. There's very few gyms in the country you're going to go into where you're going to have 1 kilo increments of dumbbells, and there's very few places where you're going to have 1 kilo increments of kettlebells or whatever else you're doing. Barbells you can load incrementally, and again, like we said earlier, you can do it as much as half a kilo at a time at CrossFunctional Fitness, but that's what you want to do, a kilo at a time. You can do little jumps, but if you've no way to measure, if you've no plan, if you've no program, if you're not following anything, how do you know if you're getting stronger? How do you know you're getting weaker? You could be getting weaker. It's possible. If you're going in one session and you're deadlifting 100 kilos and you can't remember between then and the next session, and you go and do something else, that's a problem. Or program hopping. Maybe you're doing incline bench press one week and then you're doing flat bench the next week, and you're all over the place. They're not the same thing. If you're doing Romanian deadlifts one week and then you're doing like just standard conventional deadlifts the next time, it's not the same thing. If you're doing high bar squats one week, you're doing low bar squats the next week. If you're doing front squats one week and you're doing back squats the next week, or zercher squats or overhead squats, making sure you have a way to measure your progress. So know your 5 reps, know what you're able to do for 5 reps, know what you're able to do for 3 reps. Make sure you have a way to measure if you're getting stronger. Note it down. Don't just rely on your memory, because you'll forget it. Then you'll be telling people, if someone catches a fish and they're like, oh, it was this big. You'll be like telling them, oh, yeah, I used to have a 200 kilo back squat. Really? Yeah. How do you know? I remember doing it. Yeah. Do you not remember you were there? No. Write it down. Video it even. Video it and record it. But make sure you're getting stronger with recordable evidence that you can refer back to and then inform your next workout. Number 12, nearly there. One more to go after this. Hang in there. Go get a cup of tea if you really need it. Just pause it. Go get a cup of tea. Nearly there. You aren't doing compound movements. Number 12, you aren't doing compound movements. Now, if you look online, a lot of people will say the opposite. They'll say you're not getting stronger because you're not doing accessory exercises or isolation exercises. The problem that I find more often than not is that people are doing things like they're doing too much of things like tricep extensions or dumbbell curls. They're doing those sort of things before they've gotten stronger in the compound movement. So the compound movement should form the basis of your training if you're trying to get stronger, which is why you're listening to this podcast, I'm assuming. If you're doing things like curls, right? Say you're doing dumbbell curls, right? And you're doing 2 6s, you're doing 6 kilos in each hand, then you're doing 8s, then you're doing 10s, then you're doing 12s, then you're doing 14s. It gets really difficult really quickly. Why? Because you're jumping up 2 kilos per arm each time. So that's 4 kilo total loading increase each time. So going from 4 to 6, that's quite a big jump. That's why things like drop sets maybe have to come into play. And again, for the amount of time you're spending doing this, you're generally you're hitting one muscle group. You're hitting biceps. Okay, there's other groups like your core trying to stabilize you and etc. But you want to make sure that you're doing the big compound movements and you're measuring your progress using those, not telling people, oh yeah, I'm getting really strong, I can curl 20s now. Whenever I've seen people curling 20s, and a lot of time it's not their arms doing it, it's their hips, it's their lower back. My lower back cries for their lower back whenever I see them doing it because they're swaying about all over the place. So make sure you're doing trainable movements, like we said, and those tend to be compound movements. So bench press, overhead press, deadlifts, squats, pull-ups, barbell rows, cleans, snatches, things like that. Stuff that are going to use multiple joints over a long range of motion, over the longest effective range of motion, as Mark Rippetoe would probably say. That's what you want to do. You want to make sure you're measuring your progress against itself. So barbell, you can load at 1.25 kilos either side. So 2.5 kilos per time. Squat, you can do the same for a very long time and get stronger. If you're doing bench press, a kilo at a time is probably enough. Once you find that sticking point, that tough point where it gets really tough. You know the point I'm talking about. 1 kilo is loads. Do that every session. Do that every time you train it, and you will keep getting stronger. Provide all the other parameters are in place, all the other details of your training, like we said earlier, your sleep, your eating, recovery, frequency of training, all those sort of things we've already covered. But basically, you want compound movements to form the basis of your training. So what are compound movements? I've been banging on about them. They are exercises which involve multiple joints, more than one joint, and therefore more than one muscle group. So bench press, you're using your triceps, you're using your chest, you're using a little bit of the front of your shoulders as well. You're using your elbows and your shoulder joints primarily. Deadlift, you're using your hips, you're using your knees, you're using your ankles, using your shoulders a little bit as well. You're using your core. Squats, using your hips, using your knees, using your ankles, and again your shoulders to get the bar into position. Pull-ups, elbows, shoulders, core. I can go on and on. Overhead press, using elbows and shoulders. Use them in different ways, but you're using multiple joints, so therefore you're getting all of those muscles stronger in the one exercise. Two birds, one stone doesn't even cover it. And the last one, number 13, you don't have a consistent standard to adhere to. This kind of ties in with points 11 and 12, but what I mean by that is you're changing the goalposts every workout. Okay, so your squat started off when you were early on trying to figure out what weight was appropriate for you. You were getting your hips down below the knees, getting down below parallel, your thighs below parallel. For bench press, you were touching the bar off your chest and bringing it back up. For deadlift, you were locking it out at the top. For overhead press, you were locking it out at the top and you were bringing it down below the chin. So if you don't have a consistent standard that you're going to hold yourself to, before long what happens is your squat starts to creep above parallel, and then it's going to start creeping up higher and higher and higher as you put on more weight on the bar, and that becomes a problem. Why does that become a problem? Because you're not sticking with the standard. You're maybe telling your friends or telling yourself that you're able to back squat 150 kilos, when in reality you're just quarter squatting it. You're able to hold the bar on your back, you're able to hold 150 kilos in your back, but you're not able to squat it below parallel and take it back up again for the required amount of reps. Maybe 2 or 3 of them are below parallel, and then the rest of them are a bit high. So that is something that you need to keep an eye on, something you need to watch for. Same with bench press, if it's another big culprit. So if you're bench pressing and you're getting stronger, you're putting more weight in the bar regularly, and you start bouncing it off your chest, or you don't even get near your chest, you just bring it down, but let it hover just an inch above the chest. That is, again, you're not holding yourself to a standard, and that's a big issue, and it will stop you getting stronger. You're realistically not getting stronger. In your head, you think you're getting stronger, and you're writing down your little program, or you're telling your friends that you're getting stronger and you're doing this amount of weight now. You're really not. You're just fooling yourself, and you're probably going to line yourself up for injury because you're not fit to handle that weight. Strip the weight back. Start where you couldn't take it below parallel. Start the last place you were able to take it below parallel for a squat. If you're last time you were able to touch it off your chest for a bench press, and build it up from there. Be patient. Control the movement. Don't bounce it off your chest. Don't drop it. Another big one actually for deadlift, not just locking out the top, is bouncing reps. So not letting the weight rest on the floor and then lifting it off the floor, bouncing it, tapping it off the ground. That's a big problem. What will happen before long is that you will get to the point where you're not going to be able to even get the weight off the floor at all, not even an inch, because you're not training the full range of motion, and therefore you are leaving out a really important part of the rep. And as you add more weight, you're putting on more weight, and you're trying to require your body to lift a heavier weight through a range of motion you have not trained it for. You've not provided the required stress to make it adapt to be able to do that. Hopefully that makes sense. So there you have it. That is your 13 reasons that you're not getting stronger. Use it as a tick box exercise. Go through them, check yourself, make sure that you aren't falling for any of these. Most of these, as I said, I've fallen for. That's why I know that they stop you from getting stronger. They're also things that I see every day, every week in the gym. People aren't getting stronger because they're not eating enough. They're not getting stronger because they're trying to cheat in reps, and I'm always trying to pull them back and make them go below parallel with the squat, or make them not tap the bar, let them tap the bar off the ground, trying to improve their technique, making sure they're doing compound movements. So try and include that in their program so that they're getting as much value for their time and their investment in the training as possible. I'm not going to spend time doing lots of isolation movements for clients because they only really have a couple hours in the gym with me, and I want to make it the best use of their time possible. So those are 13 reasons why you're not getting stronger. Make sure you don't fall for them. Make sure that you correct them if you are falling for them. And yeah, share this with a friend if they have stopped progressing in their strength training. Right, it is time for news of the week. This one, it's hit the headlines a few days ago there. So today's the 10th, I'm recording this, and as you want to hear it on the 11th, from the 11th of February. But it is about weight loss jab recommended on NHS. So it's a BBC News article. It's in lots of different papers, lots of different websites. But I'm going to read out the story on BBC News, at least the highlights of it, and then I'm going to give you some details about the study itself as to why this has been recommended. Recommended is a strong word. It's recommended on the NHS. So adults struggling with their weight could soon be offered a weekly injection to help shed unhealthy fat. The treatment, semaglutide, branded Wegovy, makes people feel fuller, so they eat less and not as hungry. In trials, used alongside a healthy diet and exercise, it helped obese people lose a tenth of their body weight, about 2 stone, so that's 13 kilos on average. And the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence is recommending it should be made available on the NHS. So I believe this actually was used in America a while ago, and more recently by the NHS is being called to be made available to the NHS. So NICE, so that's the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, draft guidelines for England and Wales, not yet fully approved, say it should be prescribed by a specialist to obese adults at least one weight-related health condition such as high blood pressure or heart disease for a maximum of 2 years. People would inject themselves using pre-filled pens. Obese people should speak to their GP about losing weight safely. Some manage it through diet and exercise. So these are all like single statements in a BBC story, which is a bit odd. So there's other treatments as well. So Orlistat, a pill that stops the body absorbing some of the fat in food. There's other ones here as well. There's the daily injection that can make people feel fuller and less hungry. Gastric band, placed around the stomach, make people feel fuller. Gastric bypass, bariatric surgery. there's all these things to remove or alter the plumbing or of some of the digestive tract. I'm sorry, I'm just laughing at the word plumbing. It sounds funny whenever you talk about it in terms of the digestive tract. Obesity affects about 1 in 4 adults in the UK and increases the risk of other serious health conditions, no less COVID and many, many others. In 2018-2019, 11,117 hospital admissions in England were directly attributable to obesity, not to mention the tens, hundreds of thousands of COVID in the last couple of years. Again, I don't have the exact figure on that, but if you are obese, it's been proven that your risk of hospitalisation from COVID goes through the roof. Look into it, it's crazy, it's actually scary, and it's the big huge elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. A few news agencies are starting to pick it up and are starting to talk about it more now, but it is scary how much media silence there has been on this for the last couple of years, whenever we know we could have been managing our weight and reducing our overall weight, getting healthier to cope with any virus that comes our way much better. So Helen Knight from NICE said, such a funny name, NICE. I'm going to call them their proper title. That's the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence. NICE. We know that management of overweight and obesity is one of the biggest challenges our health service is facing. It is a lifelong condition that needs medical intervention, has psychological and physical effects, and can affect quality of life. It has a huge effect on quality of life. Ask anybody who has to carry more weight than they want to around with them. It says it's a lifelong condition. Again, that's kind of setting people up for failure. It's telling people that it's a condition. It's like, you know, they're stuck with type 1 diabetes. You know, you're born with it, so therefore you always have it. You're not born obese. You're not born with obesity. It's not something that cannot be overcome. It is something that can be overcome. And if you have a mindset of any other way and thinking it can be overcome, if you have any doubt in your mind, that's already throwing in the towel. That's already waving the white flag and indicating that your attitude is setting you up for failure. And that is a huge problem whenever it comes to these government agencies and comes to, again, talking about obesity, talking about being overweight. It's telling people that, it's giving people negative signals, it's giving them negative indications and telling them, sorry, you're kind of stuck like that, all the best with it. That's not the case. It's simply not the case. So there's the New England Journal of Medicine, so it says once weekly semaglutide in adults with overweight or obesity. So background is obesity is a global health challenge with few pharmacological options. Whether adults with obesity can achieve weight loss with once weekly semaglutide at a dosage of 2.4 milligrams as an adjunct to lifestyle intervention has not been confirmed. So there's a study done, and there was a lot of there actually were a lot of side effects with this. I'm going to try and see if I can scroll through here and find the exact numbers, but from memory there was something like 8 or 9% experienced really severe side effects to the point where they had to stop the study. They were like, I can't take this treatment anymore. And then there was like 40% who said that they were experiencing gastrointestinal issues, diarrhea, nausea, upset stomach, all sorts of things. And like 40%, that's a huge amount. That's a really, really huge amount. So some serious adverse events were reported in 9.8% and 6.4% of semaglutide and placebo participants. So placebos whenever they give them something pretending it's semaglutide and it's the treatment and it's not the treatment. So funny enough, there's more people actually had side effects with the semaglutide and significantly less had it with the placebo. So I don't want to get too much into details because I know this can be boring to listen to, but I think it's important to talk about it. It's important to look at it. It's not actually given in this study I found. So the important thing to point out is it did help. Okay, it did help people lose weight, but there's lots of things that that work. I mean, taking cocaine gets your heart rate up. Does that mean it's a good substitute for exercise? I'm going to say no. Okay, there's lots of things that work. There's lots of things that we can do with our bodies, and if you want to take whatever drugs you want to take, that's entirely your business. The reason I'm pointing out this story, and I want to give my 2 cents on it, is, well, one, it's my podcast. Number two, it's interesting. It's really interesting from a principle point of view. From my perspective, my business has been set up to help people to live healthier lives, to live healthful lives, optimal health, to inspire people to live with optimal health, to do the things, eating well, sleeping well, exercising and training. It's primarily training, okay? I'm not going to train people how to sleep. That's not part of the business, but it is a holistic approach. I do think all of the outside factors are important when it comes to looking after our health. I'm not a pharmacist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physio. I'm not going to prescribe drugs. I'm not going to tell people that, you know what, you're over 35 BMI, so you should go on this drug. And it's made it clear that the same experts are the ones who should recommend this drug. And I agree, but the problem is it's not encouraging people to look after themselves. Right, you might drop weight, right? You're missing this bullet, okay? You're missing obesity. Obesity's maybe not going to kill you now because you've dropped your weight down. Great. What about the other things that come from this? If you're still eating junk, if you're still eating crap, if you're not sleeping well, you're not managing stress, not training, not moving, there's still a tidal wave of diseases that can come your way. Just because you're not going to be obese does not mean that you're going to avoid all the other things. If you're not eating enough minerals, if you're not eating nutrient-dense foods regularly, that's a problem. If you're just filling yourself up with sugar, refined carbohydrates, that's a huge issue. So that's why I feel so strongly about, I think, like interventions like this. Same with gastric, what was that called? Like gastric bands and gastric bypasses and stuff like that. These are huge. These are operations. These are things that significantly change your lifestyle. And in this day and age, we've become so preconditioned to just getting a quick fix. And this is a quick fix. Let's not be in any doubt about that. Like, okay, I understand people who, if you get type 1 diabetes, you have to inject yourself. Okay, you have to make sure your blood sugar is regulated. Fair enough. Right, there's not much you can do about that. Yes, exercise can help. It doesn't reverse type 1 diabetes as far as we know. I've never come across any cases of it, but what I'm trying to say is inject yourself with this drug to suppress your appetite. Like, there are other things. Every time you eat food, there's a hormonal response, and that's what we have to understand. There's a hormonal response, and it can either make you feel like you need to keep eating, or it can make you feel like, oh, I'm full up now, that was great, I don't need it anymore. Different things happen. Different foods provide different responses, and if you are relying on a drug to do that instead of fiber, instead of protein, instead of drinking enough water, instead of sleeping enough, instead of going to bed at a reasonable hour so you're not tempted to snack on things that we don't need, like, those are all lifestyle things. Those are lifestyle changes. It's just incredible to me that, like, the National Health Service, it should really be called the National Medical Service, because these are medical interventions. This is not health related. It really isn't. It's not health. It's a medical. It's a pharmaceutical product that's being suggested to people who are severely overweight. And I've heard different discussions on this over the last couple of days. Some people said, well, if you're really, really overweight to the point where you can't move, maybe this is a good option for you. The thing is, you don't need, like, exercising is not the best way to lose weight. I've said it time and time again. It sounds like a shocking thing to say for a personal trainer, but it is not the best way to lose weight. It's a good way to manage your weight. It's a good way to provide, again, optimal health if you're training, if you're moving. But if you're so obese that just walking, moving, getting up and down off the sofa, getting up and down off the toilet, climbing stairs is uncomfortable and really, it's just really difficult for you, you can still lose weight through diet alone, through changing things in your diet. And unless we are going to acknowledge that and try and make those things as achievable as possible for someone who is in that situation, and it's not a nice situation to be in, I understand that. There are a lot of things that can go on. We get to a tipping point and that weight can just keep piling on, and we feel if you're in that situation, a lot of people feel ashamed, they feel embarrassed about it, and they try to cope with that by eating more food or getting some sort of comfort. We all comfort eat to some extent. We all have coping mechanisms. Some people turn to drugs and alcohol, some people turn to food, some people turn to cigarettes, some people turn to self-harm, some people turn to other things. There are stresses and there are anxieties in life that cause us to do things that we are not fully in control of, that we wish we were in control of, but we're not always in control of. And it's important not to judge people in this situation, but all I'm saying is this the best possible way to lose weight? Is it sustainable? What about the side effects? What about the other things that could come your way? Okay, you're not obese anymore, but you could still die from a series of other events, a series of other illnesses, because if the habits haven't changed, if your lifestyle habits haven't changed, how you're eating, what you're eating, when you're eating, if those things haven't changed, then is it better to die of something else as opposed to obesity? You know what I'm saying? And in life, there are hard things to do. Training's not easy. Training's difficult. If we always take the easy option out, if we always take the quick fix, the quick solution, the jab, the injection, Botox, liposuction, plastic surgery, whatever it is, the problem becomes that seeps into other areas of our lives, in our personal lives, not just our training, but in other things as well. It's important for our mentality to do hard things, because whenever you do hard things and you succeed, you feel accomplished, you feel there's a sense of purpose then. And that is so important for our mental health. That's one of the reasons I believe that exercise is such a great thing for our mental health. Not just exercise, but training. Actually training and achieving something, getting better, getting stronger, getting faster, getting fitter, whatever it is, achieving something. And it only gets done by doing something hard, having to work for it. It's about getting handouts. If you get handouts, you get money just given to you all the time, pretty soon you're going to have pretty low self-esteem, because you didn't work for it, you didn't earn it, you didn't do anything for it, and you don't really know how to manage it either. But if you have to work for your results, if you have to work for your strength, if you have to work for your money, it makes you appreciate it that much more, and it makes you feel that more accomplished whenever you have it. So a bit of a long-winded one. This is a really important story, I think, and I was joking about this several months ago. I was joking, sure, it'll soon be like they'll have an injection so you can just not have to exercise, you can just take an injection. And I was literally joking with this with some people, some clients and stuff a few weeks ago, and it's literally on our doorstep now. It's going to be recommended on the NHS. It's just mind-boggling to me whenever we think of the overall picture, whenever we think of the overall state of things. But it's something to think about. Read the story for yourself, and I'd love to hear your opinions on it. I've certainly given mine at length. So yeah, that's this week's news. Right, getting near the end of the show, it's time for Joke of the Week. What do you call two octopuses that look the same? Identical. Yeah, get it? I know. So good. Okay, let's bring this ship into land. That is the end of the show. Thank you so much for listening to me. Yeah, if you have any questions about anything discussed, about why you aren't getting stronger, if you do need help getting stronger and you're in the Warrenpoint, Newry /Fridan /Mayo Bridge /Hilltown /Banbridge /Drumore /Hillsborough area, do get in contact. Send an email to info@crossfunctionalfitness.co.uk and I would love to get back to you. I'd love to help you. If there's anything specific I can help with, do send in your questions. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and yeah, have a great week, have a great weekend, and I will chat to you again next Friday. Don't forget to train today so you can be stronger tomorrow. Have a good weekend.